Okay, welcome everyone to the Hyde Park Central School District's Board of Ed meeting for December. Not working? Okay. For the Board of Ed meeting for December 13th. Okay, at this time, can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The flag is to the back of the room. When we are done with the Pledge of Allegiance, I please would like everyone to remain standing for a moment of silence for Major Brophy. He was a 2001 graduate at FDR who died in a training accident with the C-130 tanker and the aircraft. So if we could, after that, we'll just remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ooh, sorry. Almost sat down.
Will we please be seated? We do have one agenda modification. We'll be moving section 10, 1.2 out of the consent agenda to stand alone in the new business section, moving to 11.9. Can I have a motion to modify the agenda?
So move.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So now, do I have to vote on the agenda as modified then? Can I have a motion now to adopt the agenda as modified?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So upcoming events. Next week, on Tuesday, December 18th, there would be the Netherwood Elementary concert. That will be at FDR. And Wednesday, December 19th, Violet Avenue's winter concert. That will be at Violet Avenue. There will be no school from December 24th through January 1st. Kids will return back to classes on January 2nd. And on Thursday, January 10th, will be the next Board of Ed meeting, which will be at Netherwood Elementary School. Under 6.1, Pride. Patrick?
Oh, yeah. There wasn't much, but on December 2nd was the craft fair, and that was really, really successful. There was a lot of really great vendors, and a lot of help from the students from a bunch of different clubs, not just student government, so that was just really, really good. With the setup and helping the vendors take all their stuff from their cars into the gym and setting it up, and then when it was done, bringing it all back. So long day, but it was really, really great. And that's it.
Is there anyone else with Pride? You?
No, go ahead. You do.
I was at the holiday concert at FDR last night, and we really enjoyed it. We can really see how well the music program is developed in this, because the last two groups were just phenomenal. Actually, Doug and I were debating over which one we thought was the better group, which is pretty good that if you have two going that way.
Yeah, I like the last one better, but that's...
See, and I like the orchestra one better, so.
I'm going to make a statement. I think the concerts are really worthwhile, and I wish people will actually stay to see other children's perform. I know it's tough, especially last night was a long concert, but you know, there's people who watch your kid, you could at least watch theirs. So, but that's just me. So there were other concerts. There's a middle school concert on Monday, also very good, and I think watching the progression, watching a elementary concert, then watching a middle school concert, then watching a high school concert. Gives you a good idea of how the progression goes with the students and why it's worthwhile. So if you elementary parents could get out once and see how the high school concert is, you'd feel better about all those lessons and going through all that pain every day where you're listening to the violin especially. But anyway.
Any more Pride?
Yeah, I have just a couple. North Park Elementary came in second in a regional recycling initiative and a school recycling challenge, to be exact. And Dutchess County legislator sent them a commendation. Also, representatives from North Park Elementary, along with their principal, went to the county offices where Mark Molinaro gave them an award and recognized them. North Park Elementary came in second. So congratulations. This was a new initiative this year. Last week was Hour of Code at the middle school. It was an amazing, exciting day. We had our IBM engineers come for the day. We had classes cycle through. I'm sure Eric will speak a little bit about this. And they were using the Raspberry Pis, a coding initiative, in the lab. In the classrooms were our high school students in the computer science classes. So all of the Haviland Middle School's children had an opportunity to engage in a programming activity with IBM engineers as well as high school seniors. I sat through, so did Aviva, so did, we were all here, several of the coding sessions inside the classroom and got to see the engineers. And I will say that this crop of the IBM engineers that came in for this initiative were very, very, very young. If they had been loose in the building, it would have been very hard to distinguish some of our high school seniors from the engineers. And so that was amazing, but how amazing for our students to do programming with young employed engineers. So it was a great day, really well organized. Our IBM ambassador and the administration at Haviland and Kim Neisel, who sets up the whole schedule for the day. And Dave Chakowski, who teaches computer science at the high school, came down with the high school students, and he was dressed in a Star Wars type costume. It was just, there was just so much excitement.
Yeah, I was teasing him that some men own a tux.
Yeah. And that's it. Yeah.
So anything on the superintendent report, or that's?
Yes, I have two. One is the results from the budget vote for the Dutchess County BOCES. It passed overwhelmingly. There were 3,746 yes votes to 698 no votes. So congratulations to Dutchess County BOCES. These are our children, our collective children in the county. At least 150 of our students go through those doors every day. The facilities have not had any type of upgrade in, I don't even know. And the rented space they're using as Perry, so
30 years.
Yeah, it's at least 30 for any kind of an upgrade, and the rented space they were using is really not appropriate. So thank you for everybody's efforts to get out and vote. Just an update on the capital project. We had our project team meeting. Might have been yesterday, might have been the day before, everything blends in together. What we've determined is that normally when you submit a project to state ed, it's somewhere between 90 and 95% complete. Wanting to make sure that North Park, there's no back and forth, they are going to focus solely between now and January 10th and send North Park in at 98 to 100% ready. That means that the Haviland and FDR designs will be sent about 4 weeks later, just so that they can really send in North Park in such a way that we normally don't. So there was an agreement to do that and accept the 1 month delay in the other two projects. That should not affect any of our schedules for approval. And Dan Woodside, the CEO of the architectural firm, and I are calling State Ed on Tuesday about the North Park project in anticipation of bringing it up there on January 10th and seeing if we can get any type of a commitment for either expedited or a better line in the queue, and just really work with Roseanne. This will be the second time I will have spoken to Roseanne about this specific project, so we're hoping to move her, and our backup plan is to do the third-party review, but we're going to see if we can mobilize State Ed to work in our favor first. It's worth a shot. It doesn't classify by any of the definitions as emergency, but we certainly think we have a compelling case to move it up a little.
I would just add to manage expectations, SED has made a point of saying that they're not expediting, because the point is, by expediting, it just means that they're pushing somebody else back, unless we're prepared as a board to declare an emergency, which I don't think we are, and we really aren't.
Right. The definition of emergency is you cannot open the doors.
Yeah, it's a pretty high bar that
Yeah.
they've set, and they've made a point of it. The other thing I will say is that take a little time, if we're thinking that we're going to go to third-party review, take a look at our submission to SED on dollar amount, because there are thresholds in which the third-party review is established, the fee is established. I know a school district that recently paid about $5,000 more for the review than they would like to have, literally by $1. It was a $10 million project. If it had been a $9,999,900 project, it would have been somewhere between a $5,000 and a $6,000 less in the review. So just take a look at that, and they take it from your forms. Is it the FS? It's the form that you fill out when you're. Yeah, I know what I know. It's one where you put all your numbers and where you're getting your funding from. Just see where that hits on the thresholds. It may be worth doing an amended.
I'm not sure about North Park, but we did look at it when we were talking about if we were going to do it for the whole project, and we weren't anywhere near the threshold then.
Okay.
A good point, we will.
Yeah.
And again, one of the reasons for talking to Roseanne ahead of time, knowing that we probably won't get expedited, but if we go to third-party review, part of what we're also going to impress upon her is that this is not one to randomly pull out and then have the State Ed re-review it. Because that's a different kind of delay.
Yeah, I will say that they did for the Red Hook project, the auditorium project, they did do their standard QA, QC review, which probably extended about 4 weeks.
Oh, good.
So it wasn't bad.
Wow.
I mean, we thought it was reasonable.
That would be great.
Well, 4 weeks beyond the third-party review. So the third-party review did their review, and then it comes back to State Ed for them to do what they call their quality control, quality assurance.
But not the re-review.
They're not doing a full re-review.
Right, and that was my understanding. I was just looking it up. Roseanne was the one at that meeting that I was at. So that's one of the things that she was saying, that they're finding that they have to do less intensive of that more and more and more, because they're really having this good relationship with these third-party reviewers now. Everybody, they know what's expected and how to submit and what to submit and how to review, and vice versa.
Yeah, the standard has been set. They're getting it better. Yeah.
Great.
Better.
Now, I will say at the same time, they are doing they have a new RFP out on the street looking for more third-party reviewers because that process has become
Right.
more popular. So,
That's it.
that is it. Okay, we're on to 7.2, Haviland Middle School update. Eric Shaw, principal.
Let me just start by saying welcome to Haviland Middle School. Good evening. Welcome Board of Education, district leadership, community here, community on the web. My name is Eric Shaw. I'm the building principal here at Haviland. I'm not only proud but happy to report our happenings here at Haviland Middle School. To begin with, we've adopted in my time here the district mission statement of the Hyde Park Central School District empowers our community to strive for excellence, embrace the opportunities of our globally connected world. That's something I've brought, when I came here, I brought into our faculty meetings and our conversations. It's what we started off with. We've evolved since then. We still continue to do that as our driving force, but we also are including our portrait of a graduate and conversations there as we begin. For our vision here in the building, it has been longstanding. We expect all students to rise above, to respect, inspire, be safe, and excel at all times. And there's opportunities for learning how to do that, whether it's in the classroom, the hallway, the school bus, the auditorium. We provide lessons and structure around that. Former students who've come through the building probably are still even aware of that, or at least vaguely remember exactly what that might mean. For us as a whole, our enrollment by ethnicity is our numbers. We had 847 students as of Beds Day. That was last school year. I don't have our school report card for this current school year as it's being developed. But as you can see, most of our student body falls under the Caucasian or white at 68%. Our second largest group is our Black or African American students. And then we have our second largest group is our Hispanic and Latino students, and then we have our Black and African American students, and multiracial students, and then our Asian and or Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders. And just a little picture about We Are HMS that was actually taken during our community night, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So we do have some graphs coming up. So if I can sort of situate you, this is our ELA assessment scores for proficiency levels for 3 and 4 for the last 3 years. So if you see the orange bars, that's 15-16, the yellow bars are 16-17, and the green bars are 17-18 this last school year. And going across, it's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and this last column here is our total, 6-8. It's our aggregate. So if you can see, I like that the trend is going up as a whole. I like that we're seeing a rise in our scores. We did see I'd say a sizable jump in most areas this past school year. For our math assessments, a similar orientation in terms of...
Pardon me. Do you want to take questions now? I have a general question on these three shots.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you say all test takers, you mean just the ones that took the test?
Who physically sat for a state assessment. And it does not include all student body, does not include refusals.
Then I don't see, when I see the opt-out rate, I don't see that this is significant at all. And I mean, the opt-out rate was 50% or more.
Depending on the assessment, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's significant in terms of how our students are performing in school.
Well,
it certainly is missing a large portion of our students to do a viable sort of, this is how all of our students are doing. And as we see some of the data more, I can break out some of that too, because you're going to see in the math slide, you're going to see a rise in percentage passing, but this also is the details at the bottom, this, especially in the 8th grade level, and that green column, it grows even higher and higher. And one of the reasons for that is, although we still have opt-outs or refusals in math, we also include all of our students who took the algebra assessment, because that is a state test that they're taking in 8th grade. So you're going to see that climb, which sort of talks about there's 8th grade math this past year sitting in the 43rd percentile. When we include all of our students who actually take state assessments, well, that number is even higher, which then says we get a better sort of idea of how our students could perform, but still in there is still a large percentage of refusals of student body. Science is an interesting one, too, because the science assessment hasn't changed like the Common Core exams did a few years ago. It's been pretty much the same standard assessment over the last, I'm going to say, probably 10 years or so. And yet we still see a growth in refusal rate for science. It's also the third assessment that we have in the line of state tests. I think that at some point in time, for some reason, the kids are making that decision, or parents are making that decision. But this includes our students who also took the living environment regents. We've done the living environment the last 3 years in this building. And when we talk about the number of refusals in terms of the data, in last year and the year before, we're looking at somewhere between 30 to 40 kids who actually took the science assessment. The rest of those are the 40, 50, or 55 kids who took the living environment assessment. And of those students who took the living environment or the algebra, 100% pass rate of proficiency and or mastery.
Good.
I flick back because this, for some reason, this presentation is absent of my slide on the refusal data. So I certainly will share that with you out. I'm not sure why that is, but
We have it in our.
you have it there. So I'm hoping this is the overall the most current version. I'm a little nervous now, but we'll continue to go forward. So in terms of our refusal data, we have seen probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we saw a big boom. Like all of a sudden, like, wow, what is this? What's happening here? We saw a little bit of a dip last year. I'm not sure if it's a trend. More years to come there. We still do our work in partnership with our PTA and communicating the different types of assessments that students are taking now, the level of work the state does to move away from the Common Core assessment to this, so it's going to eventually become the next generation assessment exams, I imagine, and the work that they're doing with educators, with parents, student feedback, professional feedback on how to make the assessment experience different and more relevant to students. So I'm hoping to see a larger dip in the refusal numbers as we go forward.
Okay, I guess my point of asking the question before was that if more people would send their kids and take the test, we'd have more data, more reliable data, so that we could improve. It's very difficult to improve a school if we don't have the data to back up what things that we think should be done. And
yes,
I just wanted to make that point. I hope that parents will come around and actually participate, have their kids participate. It just boggles my mind that, that they expect improvement in the school, and yet they won't allow us to get the data that we need to actually improve where we need to. So
And I might add there, too, that is 100% correct, but also the opportunity to demonstrate what all of our kids know, have learned, or are able to do, because I might suggest that you might see a rise in that data as evidence with the math alone, where they are taking a state assessment in math, and suddenly you have 45, 50 more kids getting 4s and 5s on that algebra exam. So I think it's another point that if more students did participate, we might actually be able to get a fair assessment of where all our students stand. So in terms of improvement initiatives, we're always looking to be the best school we can be. District-wide, we're supporting, of course, our initiatives around the 4 Cs and 21st century learning. Inside the building, inside our classrooms, with the support of our directors, we're working really hard in transitioning to the next generation learning standards. In terms of assessment, we are here at Haviland, we're moving to the computer-based assessments in ELA this year. We're going to utilize our one-to-one devices to help support that process. And for BLT, I'll talk more about it now, but we're working on really looking at our attendance data and really making an understanding that every day counts. If you're not here, you can't be educated. And that's an area that it's been since we were a focus school when I first arrived. And although we're now and have been for the last couple of years a school in good standing, it's something that's still on my mind. It's something that BLT took over. And I'll talk more about that in a few slides down the way. And the final piece that was probably our largest initiative in terms of student experience this year is working on our social emotional program called Second Step. It was a program that was here at Haviland probably 8 or 9 years ago. It is a brand new program in terms of it is a blended learning experience. It's online lessons, and it's embedded in our classrooms. So we have, for the year, it could be 26 instructional lessons on various topics. For this year, we're starting small, and we're going to build it in a way that makes it successful. And it's a partnership with our counselors, our psychologists, on one day a month actually pushing into the classroom to do a lesson, and then another day a month we do an extended homeroom period where our homeroom teachers actually deliver the other half of that lesson. And it is around things like goal setting, navigating middle school friends and relationships, taking responsibility, all the things that you would hope to see happen, and it's actually differentiated per grade. So there's a 6th grade curriculum, a 7th grade curriculum, and an 8th grade curriculum that supports our second step learning. And for those who've been in our building a long time, or at least a relatively long time, we had certified second step trainers, and they remembered the big binders they would carry around, and it's a fresh look. The resource they use and the experience they have, the topics they give they look like our kids. The experiences are experiences our kids have, and it's something that we're finding to be our first step in second step, if you will, and hopefully to build really capacity for our kids and our adults over time. This is a 3-year middle level program, and this is year 1, and we're starting small. We hope to grow into a successful approach for kids. I think a little bit back to last year when we were looking at our practices at Haviland Middle School, and if there's a problem, what do you do? And we had this multi-page list of all this support and resources available to kids, and we said with our at-risk team, we need to look at what are some proactive strategies. What can we do before the problem happens? What can we do to head it off and give kids the skills, the language, and tools to navigate this social environment, this challenging time of middle school? And we're feeling pretty confident in the early stages that will be something that will fill that void. So that was our largest sort of student experience initiative going forward, with the combination of our critical thinking with the 4 C's. In terms of technology integration, we have a lot of neat things happening here. Of course, I'm sure the board is familiar with the Google Apps for Education. It is a great way to innovate, collaborate, share. It's a great way for teachers to do outreach through Google Classroom, immediate feedback. It's really what I've seen it most used for as tools for collaboration. In terms of opportunities with the Chromebook one-to-one initiatives, opportunity for blended learning, flipped classrooms, which we're starting to experience some. Teachers really going further out. Like I would say probably 85 to maybe 90% of teachers have a Google Classroom. Kids are enrolled. They're using the Chromebooks in a very real way. It's a very real part of their life. I'll speak to it as the principal and saying that's what's happening. As a parent, having a student just come through middle school, I know what's happening at our dinner tables during homework time. So I'm pretty excited to see that. We do have also the capacity for just the online research using the library databases inside the classrooms and sort of eliminating the sort of transition times of moving from environment to environment. In our 8th grade, we have an updated Mac lab, brand new stations, and our laws program, we have an updated Windows PC environment. Of course, we have the Chromebooks, and that really gives an exciting experience for kids to experience all 3 operating systems. You get to work with Chrome and Windows and Mac and have a good variety of tech exposure going through the middle level. And we are beginning our beginning steps in Project Lead the Way in our 8th grade technology classroom through Mr. Frazak and his training this summer, and also which we are working toward, and we're sort of working towards sort of a grand opening of a maker lab coming this spring, using things like Ozobots, Kubelets, the Raspberry Pi. We have a green screen that is in development, which was part of a teacher grant that Ms. Ramsey was able to gather. And of course, our Day of Code, in collaboration with the high school, with Kim Neisel's work and direction to get it all together, Debbie Furman over at IBM as our STEM ambassador. And a little context to Mr. Tchaikovsky and the Star Wars robe. It was coding using a Star Wars sort of theme, so that was the experience as they're moving the characters around. So it was really engaging. Kids seemed to really enjoy it. And along those lines of the engineers, there were actually students remarking, middle school students remarking, saying, "Are you really an engineer? You're really that young?" So it's like I hadn't seen that same experience. In terms of sort of our building level teams, our BLTs, we always are working on two really sort of overarching themes. The first being, which you guys are familiar with, I believe, around our Haviland Middle School Community Nights. We did our 5th annual, was this early November, and I would say another success. We did a theme of bringing community to community. Last year, we worked on mental health. This year, we built off of that to build more resources that are free resources through Dutchess County and getting some of our community members there. So we have this longstanding partnership school districts do with Dutchess County and their Building Bridges network. So we brought her a letter there, and I got permission for us to hand it out to their providers and their resources, say, hey, come to ours. So very well attended, and I'll talk a little bit more about community partnerships and donations and things like that as we go. And the second piece is we started it last year. It's our attendance initiative with our BLT of making every day count. You can't learn if you're not here. We conducted a survey surveying all faculty. Give me 3 reasons why students don't attend school. Give me 3 solutions. And then as our students were handing in Chromebooks last year, we did a survey asking them questions about attendance, like, why don't you attend every day? What are circumstances that impede your ability to come here? And then we have one third one so we can triangulate data. We're working on a parent survey that we can get out and get feedback from parents about attendance. We want to improve our attendance. We're working really hard inside with our guidance counselors and our nurse in terms of our core team for communicating with families around attendance, updating our letters, updating our conversation, increasing our meeting times with parents, really encouraging them to get here and get their kids into school so we can educate them in a very real way. And so we hope to continue to see that success in this as we're identifying our systems and we're flow charting out our experiences, so sort of a what to do if, so there's no questions. We're pretty consistent with every approach. And then hopefully with our survey data, we can sort of build upon this idea of making every day count and get more students here on a regular basis. So HMS Pride, there is a ton of things that I struggle with this, not just to make it a laundry list and really actualize what's happening. Of course, I start off with academic achievement because we are school first. That is our reality. And we just finished our first PTA-sponsored honor roll breakfast where we recognized, I would say, probably slightly under 400 students for academic achievement or honor roll, and just sort of recognizing their hard work and their payoff. And of course, we can't go without talking about our award-winning music and arts program. We play a very large role in that. Yes, we just finished our 3rd of our 3 winter concert series this past week on Monday, and I would say everyone seems to build better than the first, and it's just a tremendous, even just 6-8, seeing the growth, and then actually to be able to see it and see some of my former students at the high school last night was pretty incredible.
I would say that music is also an academic achievement myself.
Oh, agree.
I would include them to that's part of the program that makes this school and our other schools special, is that the degree of the arts and music that we provide.
Yes, thank you.
So.
And I continue with we do have a robust PBIS program to support students around gotchas, around perfect attendance. We're having kindness recognition contests each month. Of course, we have a very high participation in sports and extracurricular activities and clubs. I've always been very appreciative of the board, who I've been able to increase a club every year since I've been here. I'd like to continue that trend as we're going to this budget season because our kids are wanting to do more. And that's just a theme that we want to be able to offer them, another reason to have them to come to school. And as we know, there is research that talks about the more connected they are to the whole, the better they're going to be academically successful. And of course, our drama club, I'll release it here if you don't know, we're doing Willy Wonka Jr. this upcoming spring. We're super excited about that. Our ally club's doing a lot of work on Cultural Awareness Months. In October was Hispanic Latino American, in November Native American. We're going to continue our themes throughout the year. Our summer instructional program is in year 2. That's something we're also very proud of. We're starting to see a relationship to students who are attending summer instructional program and not seeing a drop-off coming into the school year after the first quarter report cards. You know, we're correlating that data. We want to see if it's causal. We want to continue that work because having kids come in the summer for 3 hours a day working on ELA and math has been a wonderful thing for me to see as principal under Paul Faziola's leadership. It's been something that's sort of taken off in terms of numbers and experience, and we thank the board for that. And our AVID instructional program and the supporting activities. We're proud of the college visits and the career awareness in the community they go to. I got to join our AVID program. They visited Marist College 2 weeks ago. Pretty exciting to see kids realize that, yeah, you could do this. Seeing themselves as someone who could attend college. Our AVID program typically services students who would be the first generation going to college and sort of build those connections now here at the middle level, or identifying what career. Sitting down and have a conversation with 7th graders about what major they might want to major is a pretty incredible thing. Like, do they have this and do they have that? They're really excited about that. And our HMS PTA, I can't be more proud of that organization. They're here supporting kids. My tagline is they make the experience. They really do, in a very real way, in a way that is accessible to all of our students. And of course, I'm proud of the HMS community holiday support for our families. Board may not know, we've adopted now, I think it's up to 5 families between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's just our faculty and staff in the building, with outreach from local organizations, from dinner to holiday presents to support that might be requested. And that's just our faculty, staff, teachers, HPUE members, everybody just doing it and banding together to get it done. And of course, it's the little things that happen every day. It's the little things that make up our climate and culture that make me proud to be the building principal here at Haverhill Middle School. In terms of community collaborations, I highlight 3 of them up top and give a little more context with them because they're new this year. These are things that maybe you're not aware of or you weren't sure what was happening. Under Camila Doma, our assistant principal's direction, our HMS Connect has taken off. It is a program that she's forged a relationship with Dutchess Community College and their behavioral science and educational program to do activities with students here after school. And, you know, we weren't sure of how much that would be sort of engaged by kids. I think we had an overwhelming, probably 160 parent permission slips for the first semester. We didn't have 60 slots available, so we had to wait list some, but we're already building for our second semester. It runs the college semester on Wednesdays here to do activities with first and second year college students. Our AVID Reading Buddies was a program that was brought together by our AVID teachers, brought to Mr. Faziola to collaborate with our elementary principals. We now have AVID Reading Buddies in 2 of our elementary schools where our AVID students go and read to first graders at Ralph R. Smith and North Park Elementary. We just finished our first round of that in November, and we're looking forward to our future monthly visits. And also under Camila Doma's direction and from the district and the work that Melissa Lawson was doing at Ralph R. Smith, we're working towards adopting the backpack feeding program as well here. And we've done our research and we're about ready at the new year to begin servicing students. So we're really excited about that. Of course, we continue our Marist tutoring program, which you've heard me talk about in the past, our Healthy Kids Literacy program, our Community Night Support, which I put there specifically because it's our district's vendors that donate most of the food that happens at our community night. So it's Rockland Bakery and Skinsburg, and it's all the folks that we use every day. It's the Capola's Restaurant in Hyde Park donates the sauce. We have parents who donate food, from 1,000 meatballs to salads and things like that. And we have probably about 20 local businesses that have donated we do gotcha drawings for parents for like coming out and attending and sort of caught for being good with that. And that's always been certainly a fan favorite of the parents. Certainly, community collaboration, as you guys are well aware of, our SRO program, our CAPE program, and of course, I bring up the PTA again because they do make the experience. And certainly, if there is any questions.
So, Eric, I look forward to hearing what your BLT comes up with the absenteeism.
Yeah.
So, I think we do have that in the DLT at the end, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. I have a question on the second step, emotional learning.
Sure.
How much class time does that take? And I assume it's not just one class. It's not just English or math. You're
no, so that's a great question. So it's twofold. So when it's the first time a month where our guidance counselors are paired with either a social worker or a psychologist come in, we rotate that experience per month. So in September, we may go to English, and October, they may go to math, and in November, they may go to social studies. So we're not hitting all at once. So that's how that happens. And the other time, we actually do an extended homeroom experience. We extend homeroom by 25 minutes, and we took a few minutes off of each class period, so we didn't impact academic times too much, because there's a lot of value in readiness to learn and then being able to to sit and learn. And that's what that social emotional program should do. So we worked with the understanding that we wanted to limit the amount of academic time that was going to be not spent on those subjects, and really wanted to fill it what we felt was pretty valuable experience for kids.
Okay. So any other question? You got something?
No.
Okay.
It's really not a question about your presentation, it's more of a question, this building, we've had a lot of experience with space temperatures and keeping classrooms comfortable over the years. I'm just curious, how are we doing these days?
Well, I would say where we've done renovations, that's less of an issue. Certainly, as you know, I think we're at the third heating season since that came. So, of course, as the first one, we learn a lot about the new systems we have. I think we have a good understanding of that. Certainly in the C section, which I think is part of the facilities capital project.
Right.
And getting those controls digitized and getting new univents going, we do have our struggles. We do have our struggles in larger spaces, auditoriums, gymnasiums, some classroom areas, but where we need to, our facilities department is certainly assisting us where they can.
Okay, I know that, there, in previous years, we've had to move a lot of, move classrooms, move people around, and it's early in the season. Any of that happening yet, or
so that's a great question. Most of that occurred in our A section, which was where the work was happening. In our C section, it's creeping up in my thoughts. We haven't hit that yet. Right now, working with F&O in terms of start times to make sure that we're getting the building warm enough in time, especially if our equipment isn't able to do it as fast as it might have been able to do 70 years ago. We're able to sort of massage that. PE classes at times, the gym it's inherent. You're going to be moving around, but if I can't get that up to temperature, we work with them to share space in the A gym.
Okay. And one last, just how's the roof doing? Any
roof is a very big concern of mine. I know we've done some patchwork over the last couple of years, but I also know that my first couple of years here, especially as the spring thaw happens, or you have one of those really sort of icy, rainy, not too much snow couple of days, and it can get wet. Last winter, I didn't see a lot of that, and we did have enough snow that if that were something, but that is a concern of mine as we look at our building surveys, and you see like 1 to 5 years. I think it's right around there, and it's like that is a concern of mine.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
And thank you to the assistant principals.
Yes.
Glad they're here.
Next up, a world language presentation from Jennifer Kreiser-Amy, Director of our Humanities.
Hi, my name is Jen Kreiser-Amy. I'm the Director of Humanities. I'm just going to check to make sure that I'm clicking the right thing. Okay. So I'm here tonight in response to Leah Stritt's presentation last year. She was our student board member, and she talked about the advantages of studying a foreign language, in particular studying a foreign language earlier in your school experience. What I'd like to do tonight is provide you some information on...
Jennifer?
Yes.
Steve, can you up that mic? I'm an old guy.
And the other thing is, I'm usually so loud that I'm trying not to be loud. Like normally, I don't even need the mic. So.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll talk louder too. Like I can talk louder and just try not to because it's sometimes too much. People have told me I'm taking feedback, right? So what I want to do tonight is really provide you with some information about the research-based models for world languages at the elementary level. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to offer some options for the board to consider and then make some recommendations around how I think next steps might work best for right now in Hyde Park. So Some elementary world language models. There are three major ones. The first is an immersion or dual language model. And what that looks like is being immersed in the language that you're trying to learn. The second model is called FLES, and it is foreign language in elementary schools. And the third model is FLEX, which is a foreign language exploratory program. So to give you a little bit more information, the immersion model is where speakers of English, along with speakers of English, are taught academic content for a part of the day or every other day, or 1 week in the native language, 1 week in English, 1 week in the target language. There are a variety of models for a dual immersion program, but where students are immersed in the language and learn the language and the content simultaneously at the very early ages of learning, kindergarten through 6th grade. The idea of an immersion model is that it promotes biliteracy. The goal is that both the English speakers come out with a target language and the speakers of the other target language come out with English. So it is academic content in a biliterate environment. Target languages, typically, I did a lot of research on world languages. Target languages in the United States around immersion models tend to be either Chinese immersion or Spanish immersion. We're not talking about German or French or Italian here. We're talking Chinese or we're talking Spanish. So those are the two most popular languages around the immersion model. In the foreign language elementary school model, we are talking about a model similar to what we have in grades 7 through 12, where the level of proficiency in the language is related to the number of days you get the language as the subject. So at the elementary school, it can meet 1 time a week, it can meet 5 times a week, it can meet for 20 minutes, it can meet for 40 minutes, but the goal of an elementary school foreign language model is that students will acquire proficiency in the target language. It's taught as a special, and grammar might not be taught as deeply as we're really looking at development of listening and speaking skills in this model. This particular model would require LOTE certified teachers to deliver the instruction. So, and the district could decide whether we wanted to do something similar to what we do with a health model, where we have one person moving throughout the district, or whether we wanted to do something closer to like what we do for an art or a music model, where the elementary buildings have a certified teacher assigned to them. The FLEX model provides a much lower level of proficiency in the foreign language. In fact, the goal of a FLEX model is not even proficiency in the foreign language. The goal of the FLEX model is really to expose students to other cultures, expose them to hearing other languages. It's to nurture speaking and listening both in the target language but also in the language they currently speak, and to really develop an appreciation of other cultures. In the FLEX model, you would not need a certified language teacher to teach it, because it could really be more like a geography opportunity, looking at cultures around the world. It would be more of a culture class, is what I'm saying. Our current language program, and I took this slide directly from Leah, begins in 6th grade with an introduction to both Spanish and French between the ages of 10 and 12. We are implementing the FLEX model in that in that current language program at 6th grade. It's an exposure. What we're trying to give our 6th graders is an opportunity to see the language and make a more informed decision as they move into 7th grade. Students take one language, either French or Spanish, in 7th and 8th grade, and they acquire 1 high school credit for that. They are then permitted to drop a language. about 78% of our kids do not drop a language. They stay in a language. Should students continue, they take Spanish or French levels 2 through 5 at FDR. Levels 4 and 5, 5 would be the AP course, allow for students to earn college credits. The level 4 languages, at level 4, our students earn language credits through Dutchess Community College, and level 5 is an AP course, which could potentially, if you score a 3 or higher, get you credit at the college level. So as part of this project, I've done some research. I've actually done a lot of research, and we did a survey of the Dutchess County schools, and so in front of you, you'll see that a majority of Dutchess County elementary schools do not offer world language at the elementary level. The two that do, Millbrook does offer elementary world language. It is a before or after school program. It meets one time a week. The district does not pay transportation, and the parents actually pay for the program. Arlington's response, when we asked Arlington, they were exploring an enrichment program for world language, but they currently don't offer it as part of their course offerings. In front of you and attached to the board agenda, there is a spreadsheet that has all of the elementary schools in Westchester County, which we reached out to, either looking on their website or by phoning their school and asking questions about what they offered and how they offered it. So you can see on the spreadsheet their responses. The places where it's blank does not mean we did not get a hold of them. The places where it's blank means that the person that we spoke with did not indicated they did not offer a program. So that Westchester data really looks at, of the 122 elementary schools in Westchester, 28 of them are providing programs. So it's about 23% of the elementary schools in Westchester County provide a world language experience at the elementary level, and you can see how it varies. Nationwide, about 25% of elementary schools, public and private, provide world language. 8 of the 28 elementary schools in Westchester County that responded, they provided elementary world language programs, or 29% of them indicated that they were extracurricular before or after school, and that the parents provided the actual payment for the world language. So the parents incurred the cost. So if you take out the schools in Westchester where parents are paying for a before or after school program, only about 16% of Westchester school district taxpayers pay to provide based on our phone calls and research, provide a elementary program in world languages. So what are some options for our district? So there are multi-layers here, so I've watered this down to be somewhat generic, and if you have questions, I will happily answer them at the end, but I want to kind of walk you through kind of 3 options. So we can do something during the day at the elementary level for world languages. We can have a parent pay option, or we can offer a flex model after school. So during the day, if we offered it as a special kind of one time a week at grades K through 5, we would incur a cost, and I'm assuming that if we offered it during the day, it would be a FLES model, so we would want a certified teacher. We would incur the cost of about a full-time LOT teacher at each elementary building, so including their benefits, it's about $340,000 extra dollars in the budget a year. The district would need to make decisions around what kind of language they want to offer, whether we wanted to do Spanish, whether we wanted to do Mandarin, whether we wanted to do French or Italian, that we would have to make those decisions. We would also need to make decisions around what grade levels. Would we offer it K-5? Would we offer it 4-5? Would it be open to everyone? Would it be an enrichment? Or would it be just a special? So there are some there are layers inside of the during the elementary day option. The other piece I want to just say out loud is that we have worked very hard the last 2 or 3 years at the elementary level establishing guidelines for instructional minutes around the core subjects. So math is required to be 60 minutes a day, and the regulations tell us this. The regulations tell us reading should be 90 minutes. We ask for 120 to do both reading and writing, 60 and 60, and we have 40 minutes of social studies and 40 minutes of science. One of the challenges of offering during the day world language would be the minutes in the day. We would have to think about our whole special cycle and what that means around art, PE, music, library, and the compliance issues there. So I want to just be clear about that as another thought point. Parent pay option. I met in September with the CEO of Hyde School of Languages, who is the person who's providing the services in Millbrook for the before and after school parent pay option. If we go with the parent pay option and perhaps use an outside company, when I met with her, she explained that they use native speakers. Some of the native speakers they use are certified teachers. Some of them are not. They've all been fingerprinted, but they might not be certified world language teachers. I asked questions about supervision, expectations, materials used, and cost as well. So the parents would provide the materials that would be used. The native speakers and some certified teachers would be the people who would provide the supervision. They would take groups of students, they prefer 7 in a group, but they would take a group as large as 12, and it would be about $280 per student per semester for 1 time a week services. But they would be willing to come 2 times a week to do 2, so they could have a group of 7 and a group of 7. The district in this instance would then need to decide if we wanted to, the multiple layer is, do we want to provide transportation for before or after school parent pay option, or would that be just on the parents? So the flex model after school. So so there's some potential for this model to work, and to work actually in the spring. If we use a flex model for world languages, one of the best benefits, I think, is that it would be exposure to foreign language. It would not be, our goal would not be proficiency in the target language. So the teachers that we would use could be, but would not have to be world language certified. We still have to decide if we want to provide transportation or not, but we could have our own teachers providing the support for students in a flex model. We have some ESSA grant-funded money, a little bit of rollover, and we would be able to use that rollover to do a short 6-week or 6 weeks in each building, 1 day a week, after school kind of model where kids are exploring foreign language, exploring world languages, and it wouldn't just be learning Spanish or learning Mandarin or learning German or learning Italian, because it would be an exploratory model. The way I'm looking at it is we would learn about countries around the world, do a little bit of social studies and geography enhancement, but also then learn about the languages and inside and the cultural differences and similarities inside those countries. That would be funded through rollover. So considerations, this is the hard part. Which model might we want to use, immersion, FLES, or flex? What languages do we want to teach? I'm, as the Part 154 coordinator, I'm going to say, Romance languages are still alive and well, and there are many, many Spanish speakers, but we have had an increase in the number of Mandarin and Arabic-speaking students that are moving into our community. The high school last year had 4 languages. This year, the high school has 11 different languages being spoken by our E&L students. So we have to think about what languages we want to teach and what we want to think about in this globally connected world. So my recommendation would be to use the grant rollover money. I think when you go with a parent pay option, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I think our focus on equity as a district, our focus on equity should remain, and we should continue to offer to all students who want the opportunity using grant-funded money and not just relying on those parents who would be able to afford a program for our students. I do want to caution, because it's rollover, it may only be a one-time program. It might just be this spring, and it might be 6 to 8 weeks in each elementary school. I'm recommending that it's outside of the school day as an enrichment, and that we look at using a flex program, not looking at language acquisition. There will be some language acquisition because of the way we'll set the program up, but that we touch on all languages, Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, and explore them. And I'm also thinking we capitalize on our technology. There are some really great things you can do with the Google Apps suite around virtual field trips, around taking kids to places, amazing cities in the world, talking about the languages that are spoken there, looking at the street signs, looking at the mall, the mall lettering. Like, it's amazing and it's fun. It'll be enough technology that kids will be engaged, enough language that they will get some exposure, and enough global awareness that when they do hit our middle school, they'll know more than just a little bit about the world around them. We would use our own staff, and my recommendation is that we work in the cost of transportation using that grant-funded rollover money. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I actually have a few. First of all, to me, immersion would be the most effective method, but you didn't tell me how much that's going to cost, so I can't evaluate that. The FLES model, the $350,000, that's like 3% of our budget. I mean, why is that a big deal? In school, after school, as far as I'm concerned, we should extend the elementary school day and put that in. I don't think before and after school is as effective as it being a part of the everyday school day.
So I agree.
I also think the immersion to start with should be Spanish.
So I will just talk a little bit about the immersion model if we're thinking about starting an immersion model. And there is a school, Newburgh has one dual immersion school where the students one day learn Spanish, learn their content, math, science, social studies in Spanish. The next day, math, science, social studies in English. But there are 2 teachers in that classroom, one that speaks English and one that speaks Spanish. So if we were going to start a dual immersion program, probably start it at a kindergarten level, and it would be the cost of the first year, 1 bilingual certified Spanish teacher, to partner with with a teacher that is already on our staff, that's a kindergarten teacher that speaks English.
That would be per section then?
That would be per section.
Okay.
And then so then the question becomes, do you want to have immersion sections at every building? What Newburgh has done is created elementary specialty. They're like academy schools. So one elementary school specialty is the dual language immersion. One is like a science magnet. One is a math magnet. So they've done some work around kind of creating cultures inside of their elementary schools. The dual immersion program and offering a bilingual classroom in this district, by regulation, if we have 20 students who speak the same language at any grade level, we will be required to hire a bilingual teacher and offer a bilingual section for those students. So far, we haven't had it. Because not that we haven't had almost, we've gotten to 18, not that we haven't had almost that many students at one grade level who need E&L services, but because they also don't all speak Spanish. So although we may have, and I think this year our highest number is at kindergarten, and I think there are, I don't want to give you a wrong number. I think there are 13 of them. Not all 13 of those students, though, speak Spanish. And that number may be wrong, so I'm just giving that to you. So I agreed, and if we want to start a dual immersion program.
I think we need to.
Other questions?
Yeah, everybody else off.
I'll just add a little piece, which is that I taught two-way bilingual in the city. Kindergarten, I was the English-speaking kindergarten teacher, and then there was the Spanish-speaking kindergarten teacher. And the way that program works, so if you're thinking about budget, it's basically doubling the elementary teacher budget to do it for every student. And that was because the population was almost all Spanish-speaking.
On page number 2, your advantages of studying a foreign language, is that studying a foreign language at some point, or starting at kindergarten level, or what? What does that mean, studying?
So that comes from the American Foreign Language Association website, and so it's just advantages of studying a foreign language. This is why you'd want
to some extent.
To some extent, yeah.
And all the claims that are there, is there a study to back up these claims?
Yes, on the website there is a study.
And they state the sources?
Yes.
And what website is that?
It's AFLC, AFL, American Foreign Language. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
I can send you the link.
And then with the spreadsheet?
And she'll send it to the whole board.
Okay.
And then the spreadsheet that lists the schools in Westchester and even Millbrook, is there any correlation between school rankings or performance and schools that are doing this?
I did not notice that. What I noticed was, I noticed two things. I noticed some schools who had started Mandarin at K2, 3, 4, and when asked, those schools did not yet offer Mandarin at the high school level. So I think there's some emergence of Mandarin as a focus in some of the schools in Westchester. The other thing I noticed was, and I didn't do a deep dive on this, but on a few of them, I just looked at their budgets, and they had large budgets associated with the smaller school districts with larger budgets. In other words, school districts smaller in size, but with bigger budgets. So that was the only, I didn't do a dive in terms of like rankings. You can look at those schools though and know which ones of them.
A lot more going on besides world language.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot more going on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Now, I won't say that I've got a lot to add on this, but I mean, I do think that we are in a global world, global markets everywhere, that language is going to become so much more important than perhaps it was when I was in grade school. And I do think that we need to look at ways of exposing our children to as much as possible. The challenge here I see, the numbers get staggering very quickly when you're trying to do it in a way that, without even thinking about proficiency, just even exposure. And, the idea of doing it for one semester, doing it this spring, I mean, it's a good, the thing is, I think it's going to prove, it's going to tell us that, gee, this is really something we should be doing. And then the question is, okay, so where do you find the funding to be able to do it?
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's not a reason to do it. It just, I fear that that's going to be the outcome of it. is there a way of just trying, of just doing more inclusion? I like the idea of educating students in a very round way so that it's not an English class, it's not a language class, it's not a math class, but it really needs to come together in a way where it's, they're learning more than they think they are. It's you're getting some language at the same time that you're getting history, at the same time that you're learning to use some math principles. And I guess I would just challenge you and say, is there a way for us to think about how do we get that in, weave it in through the whole curriculum?
So,
and some of it's just exposure. I think some of what we have to do is expose, students, and they'll let them get excited about it, and they'll search out whether it's then, okay, I do want to take a language class or more interested. The fact that we have as many students that go beyond, that take it after the first offering is impressive. I mean, that if you'd asked me a number, I would have thought something much lower than that, but yeah, that's...
So I think that we're on the right track with the 4 Cs around this, because part of our growth around the 4 Cs is looking at more project-based learning and looking at more inquiry-driven design of lessons that are cross-content. Mm-hmm. So how do we... Elementary school lends itself to that kind of teaching and learning, frankly, but it's freeing up our teaching professionals to have time to design the projects, to point them in the right direction and say, global citizens, what does that mean and how do you create that? And reminding them to include and talk about the interesting, fun facts about, whatever culture they're studying. Mm-hmm. And how that works. So I think we're moving slowly towards it, maybe not as quickly as we'd want to, but we are moving slowly towards it.
Yeah, I guess one last point is I would not be in favor of doing a program where parents pay. I think that from an equity standpoint is going totally in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, though, from a global world, I travel a lot around the world, and every request that I present that is always in English. And the reason being is because it being a global world. Like, for example, I go to the Netherlands a lot, and in the lab there's people from India, there's people from China, there's people, and they don't speak Dutch there. They want you to speak English there because that's the common language that everybody around the world speaks. So even there, they ask you not to speak your native language. So what I'm seeing as a personal experience is that no matter where I am, they request it to be done in English. So that just some real world life experience that I see. I'm in a different country every month, so I see that as English being the dominant language still.
And I'll just say, because I did some research on the dual immersion programs, many countries in Europe and also in Asian countries use dual immersion as their approach. So they speak Mandarin, or they learn Mandarin as their native language, but the target language, the secondary language they're becoming proficient in, is English. So they use dual immersion, but so that's where the dual immersion research is coming, or where what I read is coming from.
I would just comment that I would really prefer to see something happen in the elementary schools as during the day, if possible, like we're all talking about. I mean, I'd like to explore the possibility of a special so that it could touch on everybody. And again, I agree with you, I'm not in support of a program where we would have parent pay. And if it had to be something that was after school, I definitely want to consider offering transportation, because without it, then the same thing is happening.
Yeah, it's
if we
equity.
ask for parent pay.
Yeah. So should I take direction from the board to put in a staffing request for world languages at the elementary level? I'm looking at Linda because it's...
yet.
Okay, I'm looking at Linda 'cause-
I think we have to have some more discussion as a board on that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Because my staffing request is due January 17th.
Oh.
Okay, it can be later. Okay.
I don't, yeah, I don't think that this is something that you rush. And I think it's something you want to at least get the community to weigh in on, so I don't see this as
Next year.
next year. Certainly if we have some grant money and we can run an after-school with some transportation and dip our toes in the water, that can be run just the way we would run. Last year, we ran, it was either last year or the year before, where we ran an after-school program with transportation for a short period of time, and we did
We've
science, and we've done that. I think that any direction we go needs to be looked at and explored, and we have a lot of people who would need to be involved to get some weigh-in and find out, where, how, when, why, and what are the goals of the program, and if you're going to do it, you've got to do it the right way, and set it up.
If we've got grant money that could be used for an after-school program, is there any way to formulate a program where that grant money could be used for, coming into the classrooms that exist now? And I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but the idea of, is someone who might float around and work with teachers to find a way to weave it in, rather than simply doing an after-school program that some kids just won't be able to go to.
Right.
Doesn't the problem come into the time in the day? If we do
Yeah.
that, I guess, right, isn't that what you were saying?
Yeah.
I think the only way to bring it in, if I'm understanding, the only way to bring it in is to figure out how to make it a special, because then we're not encroaching on the time the teachers have for their subjects.
Well, I guess the question is can it be taught at the same time that, if you're learning
Full immersion, the immersion?
Well,
I think
I guess it's its own hybrid. Where you're, if you're learning about another country, learn about the language that country may speak.
Well, I think that's something maybe Jen will have to bring back with her lead teachers and have that kind of discussion, and then she can come back with us. But
there's no answers here. There's lots of questions.
Right, I know.
The concept is great. I like the concept, but
So that's an interesting model. So that's almost like what we would do with any type of arts and ed enrichment where it's embedded, a residency program.
Right. So the idea
Instead
is
of an after-school program, do some mini residencies within the day.
Yeah. When the subject matter is appropriate, come in and make it part of it. And some of it's just exposure. It may be very little language. It may come across as very little language, but they may get more out of it than what you think. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not an educator.
I just want it all.
I know Leah last year presented a lot of information, a lot of documentation showing that it is beneficial. This is a specific question. Is it at all dependent on which language you choose as the target language, or is it just the mechanisms involved in trying to learn two languages that broaden the mind and bring the children into looking for experiences in multiple countries and learning some information about how you communicate and how this is affected by the languages you're using?
I think it's the latter. I don't think it matters whether it's, I think it's about opening neural pathways around language acquisition. So it's about getting those neurons in your brain firing around how language works. At an early, we all know the plasticity of a brain from birth to kindergarten is they change and grow so much, and they're so ready to receive language. Even up to 8 years old, kids are working on receiving language, and I think there's benefit to that. I don't think it matters whether it's Mandarin or Spanish or Arabic. I think it's just the idea of honoring biliteracy and encouraging that and exposing kids as young as you can to the language.
Yeah, because my daughter, she took French all the way through high school, but when she went to college, she took Italian. And she said if it wasn't learning the French at the beginning, she would never have been able to pick up the Italian, which she had in college, enough to go to Italy for a semester.
Yeah.
She goes, that whole learning of the language through middle school, and which caused her to change the way she thought, greatly gave her the chance to learn another language.
Yeah.
Life learners.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. At this time, can I have a motion to open public participation?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, if anybody would like to address the board, please go to the microphone and state your name.
Good evening, Bobby Goodman. I love the world concept idea. I think it's a great idea, the concept, and I'm glad that we're looking into it. But a few things I would like to know or see is our existing ENL teachers. Are they only Spanish and English teachers? If we're looking to spend money, should we be looking at an ENL teacher that could speak Arabic or speak one of the other 15 languages that we have currently to our students now? And as far as a special in the elementary level, until we can meet all the PE requirements from New York State, I don't see how you can add in a language as a special. But I'm glad to have the discussion, but it's definitely got to be much more of a discussion. Thanks.
Would anybody else like to address the board? Seeing none, at this time, public participation is now closed. Would anybody like to make any comments?
I can respond to the ENL. So because we don't have enough students of any one particular language at a grade level to have a bilingual program, ENL is either freestanding, like a separate classroom, or integrated. And the purpose of that is just learning English and English acquisition. So our ENL teachers may be bilingual, but their whole purpose as an ENL teacher is teaching English. So they're not teaching another language. Not to say they couldn't, but the certification for LOTE, for languages other than English, is the teaching another language certification. You know, they're very closely related. Oh, Jen wants to put a finer point.
I just know.
Yes.
Go the.
Because I do ENL too.
Yeah.
Because I do ENL too, it is extremely challenging to find TESOL certified ENL teachers. I know the board knows this. I know I've shared this with the members of the subcommittee that I meet with of the board. Right now, we have one teacher who's duly certified as a Spanish K-6 teacher and an ENL teacher, and she's working at Violet Avenue with our youngest students and probably our largest Spanish-speaking population. The other ENL teachers are certified ENL, but they are not bilingual or world language certified teachers. And it's extremely difficult to find those certifications. Finding translators, even for some of the languages that are coming into the district, has proven to be a real challenge. As Aviva can attest to, we're really working hard to give every child what they need, but we're growing in great ways and expanding our global population, but we're having to we're having to do a lot of research and a lot of looking for the right individuals to do that work.
Any other? Okay, moving on, board discussion, board subcommittee reports? Is there any board subcommittee reports?
I can report on the Dutchess County School Board Association had a meeting last Thursday, of which Dr. Brendan Lyons and Dr. Jonathan Brown from the Arlington School District made a great presentation on their student equity initiative. And this is a program that they started not because they wanted to, but because the state had identified that they had some inequities and were required to create a program, and the state helped them in developing that program. And after they had proven or gotten beyond where the state requirement, they decided to keep the program going themselves. And it really seems to be very student-driven and very faculty-driven at this point, and it may be something that we may want to point Mr. Garcia toward, just to pick up a few pointers and see what they're doing. Good presentation. And then also, just to let everyone know that January 12th, 10 a.m. at the Marriott Courtyard, the Dutchess County School Board Association will be holding their second annual legislative breakfast, in which we invite our local state representatives, assembly and senators to come and have an opportunity to discuss concerns specific to the 13 school districts here in Dutchess County. And all board members are welcome, and administrators are welcome to attend that. And there'll be various speakers speaking specifically.
Will there be a flyer to send around on that?
I expect there will be.
Okay.
Yep.
And where is it?
It's going to be at the Marriott Courtyard in Poughkeepsie.
Oh, in Poughkeepsie, yeah.
Yep.
By Samuel Morse, right? Is that the one by
Yeah.
Sam Morse?
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
The audit committee met with the internal auditor, who completed a survey of the district as a precursor to any audits that we asked. We discussed a possible audit item, and earlier tonight we thought of another one, so maybe that might expand to two things. But until we settle on it officially, I won't tell you which one they are. But it was a productive meeting. This is a new internal auditor, and they're very, very thorough. I thought the presentation that they gave us was very thorough. So I'm looking at, I think good things are going to come from this new firm.
The policy committee continues to meet, so we're just plugging away, reviewing all of them.
Any others? Okay. So at this time, we'll move to consent agenda. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Can I have a motion for 11.1, special education placements?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I reviewed the packet and recommend its adoption as presented.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.2, the BOCES vote capital project funding? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.3, pilot, that's payment in lieu of taxes, for the solar energy systems with Salt Point Solar LLC? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.4, vendor agreement with the Hudson Valley Piano Tuning? So moved. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.5, first consideration of policy updates?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say we spent a lot of time on these, and I hope you have read them. I think they're now meet state standards, and the committee appreciates the cooperation of the administrators who spend a lot of time going over these policies with us. I'm not sure every district does that, so.
And Jay for keeping us on track.
And Jay for keeping us, yes.
Yeah, I would say kudos to all involved. There's a lot of work there.
A lot of work.
Did we get an email about updating one of them?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be done during the second?
What does it go back to?
We took it out.
I think you did an agenda modification to do it as new business.
New business. For the
Okay.
second, that's
Okay.
the second reading. This is a
Okay.
different set of policies.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.6, corrective action plan for the external audit of 2017-18?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think Linda did a wonderful job, and that once again, there weren't a lot of stuff to correct, so the district is looking good. So.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.7, single audit corrective action plan for 2017-18?
So move. All right.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.8, stipulation of settlement with the Hyde Park United Employees Association, the HPUEA? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.9, the second reading and adoption of policies?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
We have this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
this is where we have to talk about this.
Yeah, so this is the policy 0110 regulation, the sexual harassment regulation, and we had a suggestion from the community, which the board subcommittee supports. It just wasn't in time for the original posted draft. So what it is there's a list of unacceptable conduct, and number one talks about rape, attempted rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, forcible sexual abuse, hazing, and other sexual and gender-based activity of a criminal nature, as defined under state penal law. We'd like to add there also threat of rape or sexual assault, because it's not in here. It's really covered under DASA, any kind of threat, under the Dignity for All Students Act. But the thinking was that if there's a situation, a parent or community member may be looking for the sexual harassment policy for threats of rape or sexual assault. And so we thought that it would be appropriate to add that here as well. So again, it's already covered, but it's a way of including that here as just one of the things that is unacceptable conduct.
Do we have to worry about what constitutes a threat? I mean, is there a definition of?
Well, it would be as part of the discipline, is there evidence that that student or adult made a threat, meaning in writing or such as, I'm going to rape you, like that. So a threat of, I'm going to do this to you, because it just wasn't covered explicitly here. And I left it outside of the part about the state penal law, because the other ones are there specifically because that's part of penal law, and we wanted to include it with it, that also the threat of committing that crime is unacceptable.
So the wording you're looking for, it should be rape, attempted rape, threat of rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, or threat of sexual assault.
Well, I purposefully left it just only added also threat of rape or sexual assault outside after the semicolon that says penal law, because the threat is not covered in penal law. if that makes
Okay,
sense.
so you're at the end after the semicolon.
Also, threat of rape or sexual assault. It fit in better there to me because then it got much less serious. Then it's about unwelcome advances, things like that. So it seemed to fit in better there, though we could create another number that just is that. But either way, it seemed to fit in better there.
Did you get that? So can I have a motion to amend? Policy 0110-R.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have or any discussion on policies as amended? None? All those in favor? Opposed? Policies are now confirmed. Okay, at this time, will we open public participation? Would anybody like to address the board? Please go to the podium.
What we have in here is different than your printed copy.
Seeing none, public participation is closed.
Eric, did the PTA?
Sorry to mention, the PTA
Must have changed.
Thank you, Robin. They're delicious. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's that? Doggy bags, yeah.
There's no other matters deemed necessary of the board. So I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Meeting is now adjourned.